Alright, what up guys? This is Vibe, and I'm doing another free coaching video. This one's going to be a Zerg versus Protoss. I'll be playing Protoss again versus a Masters Zerg. I'm going to watch the game from the Zerg's perspective. Yeah. I kind of like to play that as the role of the Protoss or the Terran whenever I do ZvT or ZvP, just because it's easier, because it's easier for me to play the off race rather than trying to find one, and I feel like I can kind of like switch it up and do some variety of builds for people to like look out for and have talking points to talk about on it. I feel like it's a good idea. But anyways, in this game we have we actually have a pool, gas, and then a hatchery. What this does for the Zerg in this kind of situation is it allows the Zerg, it does delay the economy just a little bit, but it allows the Zerg to have map control much faster than other ways. Builds that this would punish would be like, if I'm Protoss and I wanted to proxy a Zerg, this build is amazing at dealing with something like that. It deals with cheese type Protoss builds very well because you have speed very fast. It also would deal well with builds like if I was going for a gasless, really fast third base or some shit like that. This build could have speed done very early to deny something like that. But I do feel like a hatchery before your gas and pool is better against Protosses who play standard and just wall their natural ramp off, or wall the ramp off and then, or like have a unit that's blocking and then just play standard. So, but it's really minor though. I feel like the drone difference is going to be maybe like 3 drones or 2 drones. It's not going to be huge, super huge, because you do get your first inject a little bit faster. So that's like the difference. Like he would have more drones right now, but when this inject pops off, he gets them later, and then he kind of catches up in a different way, and he gets speed a little bit quicker. So some minor differences. I like that he you should always as well test the ramp against your Protoss opponent for multiple reasons. One reason you should test the ramp, and what I mean is like you should run up the ramp and see if you can get in the base. Best case scenario, he doesn't have anything there, you get in the base and you scout fucking everything. That's best case scenario, because then you know exactly what you're up against, or you have a good idea. But worst case scenario, which is still good for Zerg, is you look up the ramp and you see what unit he has already built out of that gateway, and that tells you a lot about the possibility of what he's doing. Right now he's already seen, okay, you got a Zealot and you got a Mothership Core. So you don't already have a Stalker, you're not building up Adepts, you didn't make a Sentry, you spent very little gas on your gateway unit, and the trade-off of that was you built a really fast Mothership Core. So I probably should not go for like mass speedlings and try and attack you with that, because you're going to have multiple photon overcharges ready to go. You're going to have a lot of energy built up on the Mothership Core. That's all the information he should have taken from that right there, generally. And now he actually got Overlord speed. It's kind of, this is actually a good thing. If you're someone who struggles to scout Protoss on the regular, and you're like, fuck, I can never find out what they're doing something, even against Terran or even other Zergs. Zergs though, you can always run in with a Zergling usually, but against Terran and Protoss, they always wall. If you can't really ever get a good scout off on them, you're not really sure when to send your Overlord in, or whenever it does go in, you don't ever see what you're looking for. Getting something like Overlord speed and then scouting their base, like he just saw the fact that I had Dark Shrine. That's actually very good for him. It gives you a really, it's a little bit of an investment early on for your Overlord, but if you scout the build correctly, then you're totally good. Now we have a lot of static defense going down here. This is a bit too much in my opinion. I like the idea, but it's too much, too early. What I would have preferred from our Zerg player here, Orisama, would have been only 1 Spore Crawler, only 1 Spore per base. And because you have to keep in mind, there's a possibility I could also have a Warp Prism somewhere. So like, it doesn't mean I have to walk in the front door. I could have like a Warp Prism drop over here, and then 2 DTs come in the middle line, shit like that. The Spine Crawlers were a bit much, I think, but the Spores were good. Because really all you gotta do is you gotta build static defense up to the point to where, up to the point to when you have an Overseer. So what you should really have is you should have like, let's say, 16 Zerglings instead of 3 Spines are now patrolling around the base. Or they're not patrolling, they're kind of sitting out here in front, guarding your third, if the DTs come in. And if the DTs ever commit, if they ever fucking commit to the Spore Crawler, the Zerglings run in, surround him, kill him. If they don't commit, well then Zerglings just zone out the DTs. Spine Crawlers are not really gonna save all your drones like Zerglings would, and on top of that, you spend a lot of money to build them that early. See, like right now, he doesn't have a lot of lings, and he sees my DTs, but then I just back off. Yeah, fuck it. Because the spines are what he invested into. So yeah, like the spine color, spore color thing is good only if it's like late game, or like you've already fully saturated 3 bases, and it's not going to be that much of a hindrance to your economy. Because if we look at it right now, really quick, he is fully saturated on the natural mineral line. He is not fully saturated on the main mineral line, and he's got more drones being built right now, but he doesn't really have a lot of saturation going on the third. Optimally, like, you want to have a lot more drones than this on your mineral lines at this point. You should probably already be fully saturated on all 3 bases on the mineral lines at this point. And the spine colors really, took a number on the economy here. So yeah, spores, if you don't already have a layer done, spores are a good idea. And by the time you have a layer, you should honestly just probably try to rely on, like, overseers. Again, this is for higher level play. For low level play, if you don't feel like you have the multitasking to do this, to, manage all 3 bases with defending it against DTs. Oh, I didn't mean to click that. Then yeah, static defense is a good idea if you don't think you have the multitasking to defend it. But it hurts your economy a lot to do this. And look, even though he has the defense here, his army is not really existent. There's not really much army here because again, he invested into a lot of static defense. And now we have a bunch of DTs actually killing the static defense really quickly and killing drones. So now how many drones are going down here? We have 15 drones that are now dead. And also the static defense died on top of that. So this is just a really big impact to your overall economy. You didn't protect it, not protecting it properly. Units are much better with detection than static defense at dealing with early game Dark Templars. But anyways, moving on from there, that's he's taking a 4th. I like that he's retaking a 4th base. I also like the idea of a spire. But I would not recommend going into Minas right away because right now, I'm going to pause it really fast. Right now, what he scouted out of me, he scouted that I wanted to kill his Overlord at my 3rd, which probably means I'm going to take a 3rd. He also scouted that I have a weapon upgrade going, and he scouted that I have access to a Twilight Council and a Dark Shrine, which means I have access to all the Twilight Council upgrades, Charge, Blink, and Adept attack speed. I also have access to Archons. And one thing, mutas in low numbers, when your economy is not super amazing compared to your Protoss opponent, when you're not like 2 bases up on them, you're never going to overpower Archons and Blink Stalkers with mutas. And I do have access to that as Protoss right now in my tech path. Also with upgrades on attack as well. So going mutas this early, I would honestly, if you really want to make mutas this early, I would only recommend making like 6 and then stopping. Because if you make anything more, like 6 mutas and then you stop, let's say you then go back into like fucking roaches. Well, these 6 mutas could actually be good at harassing the economy and just being annoying as shit. And if you actually get, good damage done to my economy, then, I fall behind in terms of resources, all that kind of stuff. But if you actually feel like you're forced to fight my army with mutas, well, you're going to lose a lot of mutas. It's not really going to be worth it, worth your investment here. So now we have mutas versus Archon Chargela and a Stalker. And this also is me, like, the Protoss seeing, oh, you have mutas. As Zerg right now, I would probably, I like that he's magic boxing the Archons and prioritizing killing Archons first. That's the best way to handle this type of situation right now. But how many units have died? I don't know how to check that. Fuck. I'm a fucking noob, man. I don't know how to check units that have died. But I feel like probably like 6 or 7 units have already died, which is expensive. He still has about 7 at this point, but there have been quite a few that have died up to this point. Anyways, we'll keep going. Killing the Archons is obviously the most important thing to do, because then your mutas can just freely kill all the Zealots. But if we look at it, look at the economy. We have no saturation, we have no saturation, we have this base is mining out, he'll transfer soon, and we have a little bit under saturation here. 3 drones under saturation. So his economy is not fully saturated, and it's because of his static defense choice against the DTs, instead of units. Spores would be good for detection, but Yeah, rely on units is better, I think. And then, yeah, now the this timing is doing even more damage with the Archons before, and now this. Losing more units. He's backing up. I like that he's not committing to this because he would lose every muta. But mutas are not really going to be cost efficient for you because, as you see, like the resources up here, like the Protoss is winning pretty hard, and it's because mutas are expensive and you don't really want to be engaging. You never want to put yourself in a position where you engage against the Protoss' army defensively while your mutas are being built. You really only want to fight against like a Protoss' army when you have an overwhelming amount of mutas. And on top of that, you also have something else like Zerglings that's going to take the damage instead of the muta. And then, like, if the Zerglings all die, then you pull the mutas back, do it again, all that kind of shit. But anyways, he made a few more mutas again. The harass is, you know, it's good. The harass is good, but investing your, like, you should always have a backup plan. The only time I would ever agree with just full-on going for the base is if you plan on going for a base trade. And you're not really in in a position to base trade against a Protoss if you don't really have a large army other than like a few mutas. If your base trade idea is to just kill probes, that's not a good base trade idea. So you should never just continuously make units to rally across the map to kill probes, basically. Like what is already here should be it, and then you should be investing into, like, you know, a stable defense if you don't plan on base trading. Be it maybe make lurker. I like that he's getting lurkered in. That's good. If I were him right now, I would be making roaches and hydras. If I'm Orisama right now, I'd stop making mutas at this point, because this is already enough to do a lot of damage to the economy. You will kill a lot of probes with this, and you go into roach hydra. If you kill a lot of probes with these mutas, and then you fall, and then, like, you know, the Protoss tries to defend it, that buys you time to get roach hydra out and lurker. And let's say in the end you lose like 3 of these mutas, but you kill the whole economy, or a lot of the economy. Well, then the Protoss, you're actually beating the Protoss in terms of income at that point. But you have an army to fall back on as well, which is Roach Hydra Lurker. But this is the scary part. A lot of damage has been done early on in the game to the Zerg's economy, just because of the way of the buildup of the game so far. So the Zerg doesn't really have a big option to deal with like this kind of a push. Even if the mutas, I like the fact that since he did make muta, these mutas are not here trying to defend this. They would fucking die. But I don't like the fact that he rushed mutas so fast, because he put himself in that position now because of that. Instead, if he would have gone for like Roach Hydra early on, he would have more of an army that's like more suited to deal with you know, an aggressive push like this. Mutas early on can never deal with a push. You always put yourself in a base trade situation if you do that. If a Protoss who's like really aggressive. But he is killing probes. It's good, but at the same time, the base is dying. So it's like you put yourself in a losing position doing this, more or less. What I would recommend a Zerg does with Muta, you can take the Spire early and start upgrading. Like, I like that he got an attack upgrade. You can take a Spire early, do attack upgrades, but don't feel like you're required to make mutas yet. You can make mutas later on when you, like, let's say instead of making the mutas, he made Roach Hydra, defended the 3rd, maybe the 4th gets denied, whatever, but he defends the 3rd, and now he's got, like, Roach Hydra Lurker set up over here. And then now he's upgrading level 2 weapons, and at this point, he's going to start letting his gas build up. And he switches into, like, a mid-game 20 mutalisk transition later on. And then those mutas do the same thing that these mutas did later on, where they kill economy, but he saves his own economy. Something like that would be better than rushing the mutas. Rushing mutas is always like a risky move, because you'll never defend your base against Protoss if they have Twilight Council tech. That's the other thing too. Sorry, I should say that right now. It's really important. The only time I would ever approve of a Zerg doing mutas like this, like just making mutas right away off of a very low unit count, would be if instead of scouting early with his Overlord, seeing, oh, you have a fucking a Twilight Council. Instead, let's say that's a Robo. And the Protoss was already making like fucking 3 or 4 or 5 Immortals. Something like, and he was going to go for like an Immortal Adept timing. Something like that, fast mutas would be great against. But a Protoss who has access to Blink and Stalkers and Archons, mutas are a horrible choice to go into right away, because you're going to be taking a cost-inefficient army into the fight. So you'll never win the fight. So then you're resorted to killing economy from the Protoss, and if you do that, you lose the base trade. Because the base trade of these mutas, the whole point of it is to kill the probes, whereas the base trade of the Protoss army here is to actually kill everything. Drones and buildings included. So I don't ever recommend a fast fire like this. Unless it's for just upgrades, and then make mutas later on in the game. Or if it's for against like a robo really fast or something like that. I like the Roach idea better and the Lurker idea better at dealing with something like this. For, you know, when he scouted earlier, I think Roach Hydra would have been a better idea. Or like Roach Ling or something like that. Something, you know, on the ground. Mutas are too vulnerable. Anyways, though, end of the video, guys. I hope you guys learned something. I hope you guys liked it. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace. Goodbye. Bye-bye.